Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this. If you've been looking under the hood of web applications lately, you've definitely been hit with a tidal wave of jargon. And two of the words you're going to hear thrown around the most are host and database. Now, a lot of people just naturally assume that because both of them store information, they've got to be the exact same thing, right? Well, actually, they aren't. Understanding the hard line between these two is literally one of the most foundational concepts in web development. I mean, whether you're launching a basic blog, building an online store, or architecting some massive enterprise platform, you absolutely need to know how these pieces fit together. So today, we're going to clear up the confusion once and for all. Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. First, the web development confusion. Second, meet the web host. And then third, meet the database. Fourth, we'll look at how they work together. And finally, we'll be busting common beginner myths. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the web development confusion. Why exactly do people get these mixed up so easily? To perfectly visualize the difference here, I want you to picture opening a brand new restaurant. The building itself, that's your host. It's the physical, tangible space that lets your restaurant actually operate. But the kitchen cabinets and the massive walk-in refrigerator, that is your database. You see, the building gives you the operating environment, but the cabinets are where you efficiently organize and store your actual ingredients. So in the digital world, the host provides the raw computing power, and the database provides the organized storage system inside it. Now that we have that mental model locked in, let's move right into Section 2, meet the web host. So, what exactly is a host? Well, formally speaking, a host is a computer. It can be physical or virtual, but it provides the essential resources for your app to run and actually connect to the internet. We're talking about the CPU, memory or RAM, storage space, network connections, and an operating system. Think about leasing that empty restaurant space we just talked about. It gives you the four walls, the electricity, and the plumbing, but other than that, it is completely empty. The host is literally just sitting there, waiting to run whatever you decide to put inside it. And you know, just like real estate, hosts come in a ton of different shapes and sizes. You've got shared hosting, which is where multiple websites share one single server. It's super cheap, great for beginners using things like Bluehost or GoDaddy. Then there's VPS, or Virtual Private Server. This cleverly divides a physical server into virtual machines, so you get your own dedicated slice of RAM and CPU. That's perfect for medium, growing sites. Now, for maximum performance, places like banks and governments use dedicated servers, meaning they own the entire physical machine, no sharing. And finally, there's cloud hosting. This pulls resources from a massive network of servers via platforms like AWS, Google Cloud, or Microsoft Azure for ultimate, pretty much infinite scaling. Okay, so we've got the building covered. Let's pivot to Section 3, meet the database.
Here is the absolutely crucial point. A database is not the physical computer itself. A database is actually software. It's software specifically designed to store, organize, search, update, and retrieve information efficiently. Imagine a world without databases. Every single application would just be dumping data into massive, chaotic, plain text files. It would be a nightmare. Imagine trying to, Control F through a billion lines of plain text just to find one user's password. There's no way. Instead, databases neatly organize everything into highly structured records, so you can find exactly what you need in literally milliseconds.
And this is exactly how databases bring order to all that chaos. Think about how a customer table completely isolates things like an ID number, a name, and an email address. That is kept entirely separate from a product table, which handles an ID, a product name, like a laptop or a mouse, and its price. Because the database software keeps this data distinct and logically separated, it is incredibly easy to search through, update, or delete whenever you need to. You're generally going to run into two main families of this database software. First up is SQL, which stands for Relational Databases. These use those strict, highly organized tables we were just talking about. Examples here are MySQL or PostgreSQL. Because they're so rigid, they are absolutely perfect for things requiring total precision. Think banking, accounting, or inventory tracking. On the flip side, we have NoSQL databases. These offer a much more flexible document storage approach. Think of MongoDB or Firebase. Since they are a lot more fluid and adaptable, they are phenomenal for handling fast-moving, unpredictable data like social media feeds, live chat apps, or gaming. All right, so we've met the host and we've met the database. Let's move right into Section 4, how they work together.
Now, this brings us to a really interesting question. Where does a database actually live? Remember, a database is just software, right? And software can't just float around in the void. Every database must run somewhere, and that somewhere is a host. Whether you're running it on your local laptop, a virtual Docker container, or some massive AWS server, that database software fundamentally has to be installed on a host computer to actually function.
So let's walk through exactly how they talk to each other in a real-world scenario. We'll trace a super quick 5-step flow for an online store. Step 1. A customer opens their browser and types in shop.com. Step 2. The host server receives that incoming request and fires up the web application. Step 3. The app realizes it needs to actually show items on the screen, so it asks the database, "Hey, give me all the products." Step 4. The database quickly retrieves those structured records, the laptops, phones, keyboards, and returns them. And finally, Step 5. The application running on the host builds the final web page using that data and sends it right back to the customer. It really is a perfect, seamless partnership.
But here's a highly practical question for you to chew on. Do you always need a database? Like, if you are launching a brand new project today, do you automatically have to set up both the host and a database?
Well, the answer is no. If you're building what's called a static website, think of a personal portfolio, a resume, or a really simple landing page, you probably don't need a database at all. These kinds of sites just serve up plain HTML files. There are no users logging in, no shopping carts to track, no dynamic comment sections. If you aren't saving any complex user data, you can save yourself a ton of time and money by just using a host to serve your static files.
Now, actually, there is a really important nuance here when it comes to large files, like high-res images or videos. You absolutely do not stuff those huge files directly inside your database, unless, of course, you want your whole system to instantly crash. The database typically only stores metadata, or a reference link, basically just the file name. The actual heavy, physical files themselves, the JPEGs, MP4s, or PDFs, are stored on local disks or specialized cloud storage. The database just gives your application the map to go find where those files actually live on the host. All right, now that we've mapped out how modern web architecture actually operates, let's head into our final section, Section 5, Busting Common Beginner Myths.
When people first start buying hosting packages, the same few misconceptions pop up all the time. Let's just rapid-fire bust these right now. Myth 1. The database is my website. Nope, the database only stores the data, the host is what runs the actual application. Myth 2. MySQL is hosting. No again, MySQL is just database software and it needs a host to run on. Myth 3. Hey, I bought hosting, so I automatically have a database. Well, not always. Lots of hosting plans do include databases, but technically they are entirely separate services running within that broader hosting environment. Another huge point of confusion comes from modern all-in-one tools. You might hear someone confidently say, "Oh, Supabase is a database." Well, not exactly. Platforms like Supabase or Firebase are what we call Backend as a Service, or BaaS. Do they provide a fully managed database? Yes, but they also bundle in user authentication, file storage, and APIs. They're essentially managing both the database and the backend hosting infrastructure for you, all wrapped up in one neat package. So, to really lock in everything we've covered today, let's put this all together and summarize the absolute core of web architecture. The host runs the applications. The database stores the data. The host is your raw computing power, your CPU and your RAM. The database is your organization system, your neat tables and structured records. A host can absolutely exist without a database, but a database literally cannot exist without a host to run it. Once you truly understand this distinction, everything from basic web dev to complex cloud computing makes so much more sense. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. The next time you open up your absolute favorite app, whether you're endlessly scrolling a social media feed or browsing a shopping site, take a second to think about the invisible architecture at work. How many different servers and databases is that company frantically juggling in the background in literally a fraction of a second just to show you that exact screen? It's pretty mind-blowing when you really break it down. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring.